Hey everyone, Mason the Brock Henderson here, and wow, what a night. I feel like I need a calf pow. NCIS reference. Boom. Um, I'm not talking about NCIS though. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. has really left me winded, but I will get to that. For now, we'll talk about NCIS. This is the 5th episode, season 13. I finally remembered what that one episode I couldn't remember was all about. It was one of those, a guy from Gibbs's past, uh, like the son of a guy that helped Gibbs back when he was struggling with his wife and daughter's death, and looking for revenge. So that was that episode, and they've done stuff like that before. So, like I said, forgettable. And this one was better. It wasn't forgettable. I will remember this one. But it did have a lot of I saw that coming moments. Alright, so just quick recap of the episode. Basically, they find this guy. Starts off with that cliche that's so overdone now of the dumb girl texting in the car like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe he would do that. I'm gonna text and drive irresponsibly because everybody does it." I'm sorry, I get really fed up with dumb cliches like that. But of course, she rear ends a car um, and goes to check on the guy in front of her, like, "Oh my gosh, I have insurance." And then he runs away. She's like, "Oh my god." And then she hears bumping in the back and opens it up to find a dead guy. And he was dead before he was put in there. So I'm still a little confused, NCIS. Like, how does the dead guy make bumping noises in the trunk? But anyway, when I saw that, I expected there to be a live person back there, and then she opens it up and it's like he's wrapped in a cloth. He's already dead. I'm like, wait a minute, then what was the bumping? So it starts off a little bit frustrating, cliche, and then bizarre happenstance, coincidence. I don't know. But find out it's a dead Navy lieutenant or something, um, and they're trying to find out. He has something in his stomach. Find out it's some sort of like deadly toxin. They get a call from some random guy who was trying to contact the victim, and they go meet up. Turns out he was selling drugs for Botox injections, or I don't know. There was something about Botox in there. It was just something for random humor, I guess. And the humor was still, the humor was still there, and that's one of the things that I really like about NCIS is that it doesn't matter how bad the episode is, you still get your good humor from NCIS. You still get the moments where, they're talking bad about Gibbs or something, and he just shows up behind them, and they're just like, "Oh crap, I'm gonna get back to work." So, you still have those moments, and I get on board for those moments. I'm not fully there for great, gripping case every week after week for 13 seasons. That's impossible. So, but that humor is still there. They have a couple of moments with Tony. He gets compared to like some really goofy-looking guy by one of the older ladies, and so they have funny moments. But that the whole Botox thing, it felt like that was the only reason they were there, was to see these old ladies who had Botox injections and make jokes about it. But the main point of the story was that Abby ends up going to this, I think it was like kind of disease place, like a CDC type thing. Um, Still not really sure what their whole point was. That's what it felt like. It felt like a treatment lab where they tested medicines. And she kind of meets this one girl who's exactly like her. She has calf pals. She plays music way too loud every time she comes in. And all the animal rights stuff like that. So that was kind of funny. And then of course disaster happens. There's an Ebola outbreak, which turns out to be just a false alarm. Um, but it's so these guys that are dressed as janitors, they're trying to like get something from the place. I think it was like a I can't. I think it was God, what's that called? It's like research of some kind. Research about a drug, I think. That at the end of the episode they explained it. It was like the company had falsified documents, and that's what they were looking for. Um, it was very, very rushed. Like the whole motive behind the whole thing, it was thrown in at the very end after all the exciting stuff happened. It was almost like an afterthought. That's one of the things that I think they handled very poorly was the motive behind it all, which is kind of a big deal. So there was that, um, and of course, the bad guys get their comeuppance, and the the corporation turns out to be falsifying documents, so it's evil. But basically, the whole episode was about Abby, and there are not enough episodes about Abby. Obviously, if you're a fan of the show, you're a fan of Abby because she's weird, she's gothy, she's funny, she's just all these things rolled into one strange little bundle, and she always brings humor to the show. So whenever she has an episode where it's all about her kind of stepping up and doing something. It's always fun, and it's another episode where they kind of underestimate her, and she's like, "You're not gonna underestimate me." Um, so she ends up sneaking around the bad guys, gets to the server room where they're kind of meeting up to plan their whole thing. She mixes up a little toxin to get them out because it smells bad, and then changes the or locks the system so they can't get to what they're looking for. And basically, it becomes a hostage situation where she finally gets a message to the other NCIS agents, and they get there. You know, all this stuff happens with the owner of the company being way too naive, I guess. Another cliche that just overused. Oh, there's no break-in here. I don't know what you. There's a break-in. Oh, how? I have no idea how. So, just another, I guess, bad thing about this episode. Um, but in the end, there's this moment where Abby and her friends, just like her, have been captured by the bad guys. They set up like an explosive to take out the bad guys. It turns out to be a dud. And so they get captured and taken to this office, and Abby like locks them in there, and she holds up this gas, and she's like, "Well, I'll die in 10 seconds if I release this gas." And the main guy's like, "You're bluffing," and so she releases it. And at that point, you're like, "Okay, she was bluffing." And not that I don't appreciate that you're trying to go for kind of shock value, like, oh, did she just kill herself to save all those people? But I mean, come on. It's like, if you've watched the show enough, you know that she's not going to die for one. They would never, in a million years, kill off Abby. They'd kill off McGee before they killed off Abby. Um, like, so, you know she's not going to die. You know that she's smart enough to grab some sort of knockout gas, and that's what it's doing. And, but the one saving grace for me was that after it was all said and done, Gibbs, they stop the guy that's kind of holding the hostages, and they break into the room where everybody's knocked out. Abby, her friend, and the two other guys, and they're taking the bad guys away. Of course, one of them has that little, "I knew she was bluffing." It's like, whatever, dude, get out. We all knew she was bluffing. And then they're kind of Gibbs, I'm so glad to see you. Oh, and you can arrest her now. And I'm like, what? And it was genuinely like a good twist. Like, after seeing this show for so long, they've never really done something that twist like, I guess, like major plot twist. This girl, she's actually a bad guy too. She's helping them out. and there weren't a whole lot of clues. There were like a couple reasons. The first one was one that we had no idea, the audience. Abby had found that the whole Ebola thing had started from the girl's computer. Um, so she suspected her. And of course, we had no idea that that happened, so we couldn't guess that. But then there was one that I thought was really clever, and that was the guy had announced over the PA system because he found her, he found the sign-in sheet and found Abby's name on it. And whenever he came on, he was like, Miss Shuto. And, kind of told her that if she didn't help them unlock the system, he would kill the hostages. And that's when she realized that there was no way he would look at her name and know it was pronounced Shuto, which means he had to find out from somebody. I was like, that's actually something that I did not notice, and I probably should have noticed. So it was a genuinely shocking twist, and it turns out the girl was like I said, the corporation was evil, and the girl was doing it to kind of blow the whistle on them. But she had no idea that the guy was going to turn out to be kind of a psycho and start holding hostages and killing the lieutenant, the Navy lieutenant who was a part of the group, and it turns out he backed out. So you knew they were going to tie him into it all somehow. But yeah, other than that, I mean, another very straightforward NCIS episode. There's stuff going on with Bishop and her husband Jake, and from the previews for next week, it looks like that's kind of going to play a big part of next week. So I'm very, 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 very much anticipating next week. Other than that, just typical, straightforward case, except for the one twist. And also, that girl, she wasn't fat, she was bigger. But she was managing to hide in some very tight places. And I thought that was kind of I don't know if it was a running joke, but like one time, Abby walks in and she's like hiding inside of this, it was kind of like a pull-out cabinet thing, and then next thing you know, she comes back in through the air ducts and she's hiding in like this, it looked like one of those medicine cabinets. And I'm just like, how is she hiding in all these places? Like, she, like I said, she's not fat, she's bigger, but it's like she was a master at hiding in these places, and I'm like, how are you closing this stuff behind you? Like, I don't get that. But, that's just one of those laugh about it things that they like to throw at you from time to time. And other than that, oh, there was the thing about Abby's lab where she wanted to move up top, switch places with accounting. I'm like, they're not going to change that. I mean, for one, it's because it's a TV show, and, thinking outside of the TV, outside of the fictional world, they're not going to build another set to incorporate a new lab for Abby. So you knew they were going to keep the lab set the same. But inside the TV world, you knew at the end of the episode that she was going to be like, actually, I think I like my lab because of all this traumatic stuff that, all the field work I just had to do. I'd rather stay here. So another cliche, but I know I'm ragging on the show, and I don't want to. I love this show, and like I said, still a lot of great moments. Just I really hope next week picks it up. From the previews, it looks exciting. I won't say too much about it because I don't want to review the previews. But yeah, I hope they do kind of pick it up a bit, because even last season, the 12th season, it just they were cases that it was a bunch of cases last season, and they did have the occasional running storyline thrown in there, but the cases felt they felt like there's something else to them. And this season has just kind of been the cliches going on, the same old cases. So we'll see. Maybe it'll change, but now it's on to review Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So I'm super excited to review that. So I'll see you guys there.